one of your hosts, Sami Kinnison, here with Angela Belford. And today we are celebrating 3 years of Be Freaking Awesome podcast. Woo! Cue the confetti, fireworks. So excited. Hope everybody is watching YouTube and enjoying our hand show, our little hand dances that you can see in the frame. I
I tell people all the time, you should definitely do YouTube because we are silly.
Also, in case people wanted to know, random fun fact, our listener growth on YouTube is significantly higher than any other platform. We have more watches and people there on YouTube than Spotify, Apple, and everything else combined. So, thank you guys for watching us. Appreciate it. You guys are the best.
We're so
Um,
silly.
we are silly, and we're just trying to take a moment today to practice what we preach and to pause and celebrate the accomplishment that, frankly, the accomplishment of consistency and showing up week after week for 3 freaking years. So go us. Way to
Go
go. High five.
us. High five.
We wanted to just take a moment and share some things that we're grateful for these 3 years. The week that this is airing also happens to line up with American Thanksgiving. And so we felt like this was apropos to, have a little look back and a little appreciation and gratitude and celebrating and looking forward. So, yes.
I, I makes me laugh so hard. I cannot figure out if it just makes us like cosmopolitan that we call it American Thanksgiving. We're so international focused on
Oh my
that. So
goodness.
since we do celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving as well as American Thanksgiving, we are all full of gratitude around here.
We are. What's super funny too is that everybody looks at us funny for distinguishing them. Our Canadian friends are like, "Why do you keep calling it Canadian Thanksgiving? It's just
It's just
Thanksgiving."
Thanksgiving.
And then our American friends are like, "Why do you keep calling it American Thanksgiving? It's just Thanksgiving." And I'm like, "You guys, you got to realize other people do Thanksgiving too, not at the same time." So, maybe we'll invite Barry on next year for Thanksgiving to tell the story about why there
No,
is a different one.
no.
I feel like
Mm-mm.
I have heard the story so many times I could repeat it myself. It's sort of one of those like family scripts that we have. Alas, that's not what we're here to talk about though. What we are going to be doing today is Angela and I have each written down 3 things that we're thankful for related to the podcast. And we're going to share that with you all and with each other. We don't actually know what we've written, so maybe there's overlap. We'll see how that goes. But I thought it would be fun to just take a moment and pause and think about, I don't know, all that this has meant to us. Angela, do you want to start? You want me to start?
Yeah, I got it. First one. We get to talk to really cool people.
Wait, that was one of mine. I can't. Okay. I absolutely agree. I think talking to really cool people, that's also one of mine. Who is one of your favorite
Mm.
people that we've talked to? I know it's really hard, you know.
Favorite person? That's like yeah, choosing a favorite child. You can't make me pick a favorite child.
Okay, well that's a very easy answer. Obviously, your favorite child is me. And I can say that because my siblings don't listen to the podcast. So, hair flip. What are we doing?
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to say two. Um First, and it is continues to be our number one episode, is It's Okay to Die, which is seems like it's a very morbid topic, but it's really about legacy. And got to interview my friend Nathan Wainwright, who had just decided to stop his cancer treatments. And I got the very sweetest email from his brother a few weeks, I think, after he passed. Anyway, his brother was like, I cannot tell you how much it means to me that anytime I want to listen to my brother talk about things, I now have this recording and I can go back and listen to it. And at his memorial service, there were people that came up to me, or they heard me talking and they whipped their head around. They were like, "You're the one that's got the podcast. We recognize your voice." And it meant so much to them to get to hear that. And so I love the impact that that made and just that lasting legacy. I mean, Nathan made a lot of great impact in the world, but to give that opportunity for people to kind of continue to be able to see that, I love that one. So one of your, and then I'll do my second one. I actually have a couple.
My favorite podcast guest is actually a podcast pair, and it was Dr. Mikkel and Janet Williams Wright, talking about grief. I feel like I come back to them so often and so I don't know, there's just something about the way that we don't talk about grief enough. And so having people who are beacons of light and hope within that to say, hey, it's okay for us to talk about loss and it's okay for us to talk about these things at work, at home, with your kids. I really appreciate them. I follow them both on social media and I'm always so grateful for the things that they have to share and love, love, love the episodes that we had with them.
Well, and Dr. Mikkel is 3 times on the podcast. We call her
Mhm.
our resident guest expert. It's been a minute. We should probably have her again talking about what they're working on now. And when you have a podcast called Be Freaking Awesome, and then I tell people all the time, and we have our own resident grief expert, because I think that, and I said this back in February, and I'm going to hold strong to it. I think that one of the at least top 5 things to a freaking awesome life is learning to tango with grief. And the reason I say that is because I took ballroom dancing, and tango is a very complicated step. It's beautiful, it's amazing, it's romantic, it's love, and it is hard. It is the only step that the ballroom dance step that we learned that sent me to the chiropractor because my husband slung me when I wasn't expecting. And so I feel like grief is so like that. Like it will just sling you when you least expect it. You end up, on the couch, and you've got to just learn it. You don't resolve. I don't think grief is ever ending. It just transforms your life in ways, and so I just love that we tackle that topic so often here on the podcast. It's one of my things that I'm
Yeah.
super proud of because I fought grief for so long, and now to embrace it as a topic pretty often on the podcast, I love that.
Even without Dr. Mikkel and our resident grief expert, we have enough people who end up talking about just their journey of overcoming grief. I think about Mallory
Yep,
with Ozark Charcuterie and
yep.
her journey grappling with grief. And there's so many others as well that's been a big part of their story.
Yep, my second one is the when we did the mother-daughter business duo
Mm.
of Denise and Javen Hamilton and getting to talk about working with your daughter. I love Denise's work. She is really bringing such joy and energy to the space of how do we reconcile our countries and our world's diversity and relationships between power and race and all of those things, and she brings it in such a thoughtful way that is very approachable for business and is practical and sensible. Like sometimes I read books that in this really hard topic of kind of race relations, and it feels so out of touch with reality, and hers just feels so much more practical. So I loved, we didn't talk about her book on the podcast. We talked about being in business with your daughter, but I love Denise Hamilton as well.
That's so awesome. Okay, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to share what I
Yep.
am thankful for this
Yep.
podcast. I think it would be remiss not to toot our horn a little bit and talk about the cool factor because that's one of the things that I'm most thankful for in conversations when that comes up and be like, oh yeah, I have a podcast. People like, oh my gosh, you have a podcast? And I'm like, I know, I'm just that cool. I have a podcast. We have almost 150 episodes. Like, you're right, I am cool. I don't know, the cool factor. That's one of the things I'm thankful
You and I
for.
were neither of us were cool in high school, so it's like the
Oh yeah.
podcast. We've bought our way to coolness.
Exactly. Bought our way with blood, sweat, tears, and time. Not any actual money, but and what's funny is that if people listen, you'll see that we're just nerds still. We're still just nerds over here geeking out about how to live life in a way that, maybe could be a little bit easier, a little bit lighter. So I like the cool factor of having a podcast and being that kind of person. So it's really fun.
That is super fun. I Related, well, I guess it's sort of related to that. One of my things I'm thankful for is I love getting to hang out with you in this way. And so my was that another one of yours?
It's similar.
It's super fun because the first 50 episodes I had a great time hanging out with Josh, and he represented every man, so he was more likely to be like, Mom, I don't know why you're talking about like a saber-toothed tiger chasing you. What are you talking about? This is crazy talk. But he didn't like challenge me. It was more like explain it better, right? And so I love that you challenge me. Like we have episodes dedicated because you call BS on things like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And then you figure out like, "Oh, no, it's more intense than that." And so you guys should check out that
I
episode.
feel like every time I call BS, it kind of backfires on me. I do wanna throw that out there because that one was like, "I think this is BS," and it's like, actually, it's like the 75 people around you. And then the other one I did was your thoughts create your feelings, and it's like, well, actually, it's not BS, it's just more nuanced than that. Anyway, maybe I should stop being such a contrarian? I don't know. I don't
I
think I'm
like
gonna
it.
stop. I'm gonna challenge everything because when you challenge things, you either learn more about why you think this thing. We don't just think it because we've always thought that, or you go a different way and you find out that what you were thinking was wrong. So I won't stop challenging things, even if it proves me to be wrong. I don't care. There you go.
There
Okay,
you go.
my next thing, which is similar but a little bit different, I like having dedicated time with you to verbally process big ideas. You and I
Oh.
both like to just talk something out. Sometimes we'll be like, I got to turn that idea over, like hold a rock and like, I want to look at it on all the sides or put it in the rock tumbler and soften off the edges. And our conversations get to help us do that with different big ideas, different things that are sort of hard to grapple with. And I think that before we had the podcast, we would go to dinner, we would make time, we'd go get drinks together, we did different things. We would probably annoy our husbands because we just kept talking and talking about this super niche specific thing and being like, yeah, let's talk about the science of play in the workplace. And they'd be like, oh yeah, play's fun. We'd be like, no, no, no. Gary Ware
Yes.
says this is intense and here are the statistics and things like that. And we're over here just like
And
ready to go.
we're trying to get scheduled to talk to somebody that wants to talk about the habenula part of your brain. I'm
That's
so
exactly
excited.
right. And so we're over here with these very tiny things. And then we go through seasons where we get busy and we don't have as much time for our like after hours chatting about things. So then this podcast and all of you listening get to be here for the journey. And, we could just go sit in a bar and start recording ourselves and see what happens. But instead, we dedicate time. We sit here with our lovely bookshelves and we have conversations about different big topics. And so I really appreciate that not only are we here trying to help teach other people things, it's a commitment for us to continue learning and to continue stretching our brain and learning new ideas so that we can hopefully be continuing to provide value and insight to the people listening.
That leads me to the third thing that I'm most thankful for, and that is that I feel like the podcast creates a resource for impact. So we have this one episode that is back from when we didn't have video yet, but it was about attachment disorder. Are you an anxious or avoidant attachment style? It's episode 22 or 23, and it is used as a resource. We know of a couple of therapists that share that podcast episode, and I even was chatting with somebody about an event we were having and mentioned the podcast, and then he had that week his therapist had mentioned that he had an avoidant attachment style, and so he was very excited to go listen to the episode. So I love that, and I will have people that, like, one of my coaching, sometimes what comes up on the podcast is because Sammy and I are coaching people, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, what is it with, like, people this same thing?" And so then when I've given the same, like, information several times, it's nice to be able to come on the podcast and be able to, "We're gonna talk about this thing," and then when I'm in a coaching session, I can say, "Here, go listen to this podcast, and I'm gonna stay coaching you on your issue. I'm not gonna be teaching you." So I love that, the resources that we create that create an impact. And I've had people tell me, like, "Oh my gosh, that thing you did on forgiveness, it really helped me think about forgiveness in a different way. And now I've been able to move past this thing." And that's just like, what's the point of life except for me to make an impact?
I love that. Maybe we should have previewed our lists with each other beforehand so that we didn't have so much overlap. But
Oops.
oh well, you guys get to just enjoy that we are similar people who have similar things we're grateful for. Because I did come up with a fourth thing because one of mine had been, cool guests and things like that. So my last one is that I really love that we get to make a difference.
Mm,
If you are watching YouTube, you'll see behind me I have a sign that says today I will make a difference. And that's something that always really sticks with me is how can I help improve people's lives? How can I help other people? Because it's not just about what can I gain from this life and what can I gain from this world, but what kind of impact can I leave and what kind of legacy can I have? And I think that that legacy really comes from the ripple effects of helping other people. And that can be in the very smallest of actions, as we talked about when we were debriefing our Sharon Says So book event, that it's the small actions of
mhm.
ordinary people that can change the course of history. So whether you are paying for somebody else's coffee at the coffee shop, or you are giving somebody a ride home who needs it, or you are showing up for somebody in a kind way who might be feeling a little bit lonely, like you can make a difference with the things that you have right in front of you. And I really love that this podcast for us has been an avenue to make a difference, that it is meaningful and purposeful. And no, we're not at the top charts of people listening to our podcast, but if it makes a difference for even one person, isn't that worth our time? And isn't that worth the effort that we're putting into it? And so yes, there is a part of us that the cool factor, we'd love to share our message with more people. And I think that it can be more impactful for others. It's also okay that exactly who is here is who is needing to hear this right now. And so I love that we get to make a difference each day and each time we come record every Tuesday when you guys get to listen to these episodes. And then even long after when we've got people who are listening to 2 and 3 year old episodes now, telling us that they're still getting value, even though some of those early episodes were like, whew, man, we should re record those. Those are, we have new ways to think about that now, but that growth and that journey is still a part of it. And anyway, so I'm rambling now, but I just love that we get to make
I
a difference.
I'm going to follow up on that and say, I hope that this inspires other people to realize that you can start small. And I use this example of our podcast all the time. I say, the first 50 episodes, and we didn't know at the time we just, the first 50 episodes were audio only. And we
The
didn't know what,
They were audio only because that was what was easy to do. It was
yes,
achievable. It was just like, you know what? Let's record on audio. I want to say we recorded
we
on
recorded
Zoom
on Zoom. Yep.
and just I don't know if you
And
guys
I
had
think
fancy mics even.
we did. That was our one investment is we made an investment into our $100 mics. And we said, you know what, we'll give it a try. And so we tried it and we liked it. And especially when a couple of our episodes got picked up by people that they started showing up. And then, after Josh transitioned out of the business and we brought Sammy on, then we're like, okay, now we're going to add video. And so the next 50 episodes, we added video. And then when we got to 100 episodes, we're like, oh, we should actually do marketing. Since we own a marketing agency, it's
Sure.
silly that it took all the way to 100 episodes before we had a very consistent system of marketing where we create reels every week, we share it out. I think we still don't do a great job of sending out email newsletters. And so I
Yeah.
hope that after this, then our next iteration is that we begin to send email newsletters. And in that, I want to be able to say, here's the new episode, and here's from the archives that you might not have seen. We, about episode, I don't know, at some point, we decided that there was an underlying value, especially for a family owned business. We don't talk about that very overtly. But this experience has been a crawl, walk, run. And I would say with 150 episodes, and we're at like, I don't know, 5,000 downloads, and which
Actually,
is
if you factor in YouTube, we're close to 10,000,
still, that's
which
amazing,
is,
actually.
yeah,
And
still. Oh, I just doubled your number. And you're like,
I
yeah,
know, I'm
whatever.
like, I know, but I mean, there's people that like, oh my gosh, I have a million episodes or whatever. And I love what you said about like, but it made a difference for one, right? If for one person it made a difference, then it's worth it. And there's a just a a method to that, and it's okay that those first episodes were a little rough, and it's okay that we didn't have a big giant plan. We used to have that we went through a phase where we had a very detailed plan, and that was actually those episodes were not so great. We didn't know that we needed to, we got to where we checked in with a guest before we recorded so that we were a lot smoother. Anyway, all of that to say, like, it's okay to do it imperfectly to start. And we figured out that people won't listen to hour-long episodes. I liked going deep onto a topic, and especially when I was using it as a coaching resource, that I really liked going deep on a topic. People don't listen to them. Those episodes have historically very, very low listen rates. And so we're like, okay, well, I wonder if we should go chop that one up into 2 episodes and even republish it. So we're rethinking about that. So hopefully this also is an inspiration to people.
Right, and I've talked with people who have thought about starting their own podcast, and they're like, "Oh, I mean, I don't know, it just feels like so much." And I was like, Yes and no. It's as much as you want it to be, number 1, and I think that I'm really embracing just a whole new lifestyle of do it imperfectly. Um, I've talked with a lot of people recently. It's actually come up quite a bit. They're like, "No, if you're gonna do something, it's
Do
only
it
worth
right.
doing if you're doing it right." And I was like, "I don't actually know that that's true." When you are if you're in a really depressive state or depressed, is it worthwhile to brush your teeth poorly or not brush your teeth at all? Like, brush your teeth really well, 2 minutes, full scrub. Brush your teeth for 15 seconds or don't brush your teeth at all. If 2 minutes is too much and you aren't gonna be able to get yourself to motivate to do that thing, brushing your teeth for 15 seconds is still better than not brushing your teeth. Do it bad because that's better than not doing it in a lot of situations. And so I don't know. I really think that I'm realizing it's a radical concept to do something poorly if the alternative is not doing it at all.
Well, and I would say that I want to BSU
Yeah.
because I go the things that people that comes up is like, yeah, but you never have a second chance to make a good first impression, which I actually can debunk because I have a friend right now that I work with every day. She's a client of mine, and when we first met each other, could not stand each other at all. And so not only do we have a bad first impression, we had a bad first 2.5 months impression. And here we are 30 years later, we're still friends. And
Mhm.
so that is not necessarily true. And the other
I
thing,
also have a friend like that, by the way, that not only did she have a bad first impression of me, we were in a sorority together in college, and there was another girl who really didn't like me who told my friend, "Oh, yeah, Sammy's awful, like the worst, like don't spend any time with her." And she believed her. And then later in college, she was like, "Wait a minute, I think that may not be true." And then after college, she actually ended up moving to Germany and we became pen pals for the year. And she's like, "I was absolutely wrong. You're incredible, Sammy." Like, wow. And she's one of my really, really good friends now. So you
yes,
never
so there's
know.
that. And the other thing is that people say, oh, well, I don't want to mess up my image or my brand or whatever. And I would say in this scenario, our consistency trumps the imperfection. And so we've been able to
Yeah, I
go
got
ahead,
ways to poke holes in that too. Somebody who's
go
really
for it.
concerned about messing up their brand or their image is authenticity or bravery
Mm,
a value that you want to be known for? Because if bravery is something that you would like to be known for, or even I wouldn't mind being known for doing something brave, then you know what? Be the first person to raise your hand when people are asking for questions. Be the person who does something new when we're at events and they're like, "Does anybody want to come talk about a thing?" Hop up because what's the worst that will happen? Most of the time, you'll be like, "Wow, you guys get how it is. You come up here and you try to improv and you mess it up, and people are going to respect the attempt and the effort
and the bravery, you're
and the
right.
bravery so much
I love that.
more. Even if you failed, I don't know. I think that it's not actually failure if you continue to try something new. If you
I love it.
iterate.
This is amazing.
I love it. And I'm just so grateful that we continue to iterate. We continue to try new things here on the podcast. If there are topics that you guys are like, 3 years in and you guys have not covered X, Y, and Z, let us know. Send us a message, send us an
Yeah.
email. We would absolutely love to hear your feedback. We would love to hear what topics you want to hear, what guests you want us to go after. I'm over
Mhm.
here just sending DMs to really popular people and getting them to be on our podcast. So, super excited for a couple of upcoming guests that we have that are just Angela and I are out here like, hey, I know you have a really huge following and you don't know us from Tim, but you want to be on our podcast? And we've gotten some yeses. So, it's been really exciting.
Yeah.
If there's anybody you want us to try talk to, let us know. We'll go chase them down. We'll see if they'll be on our podcast.
There have been several people who I feel like we've made it a bucket list item for them. They're like, I've always wanted to be on a podcast, and they come and add value, and it's been fantastic. So if you got an idea, pitch it to us.
Yeah, we would love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for being here with us on this journey, for supporting us, for listening, for telling your friends about this. Go to our website and subscribe to our email newsletter because for the next 50 episodes, we're going to work on sending that out consistently. And so you guys can get some a little bit more insights, some behind the scenes, something extra, more than what you're getting here. We really appreciate each one of you. You guys help us be freaking awesome. So thank you guys so much. That's probably the last thing we should have said before we close, that we're really thankful for our listeners.
Oh, duh.
Duh. I felt like such an obvious that, I don't know. It was just there. Of course, we're thankful for people listening to us. So thank you. We hope you guys go have a great rest of your week, a great Thanksgiving, or whatever it is that you're doing this week, and continue to go be freaking awesome.